So, a different topic.
Good evening, Mike.
Good evening, John.
We've been doing this for a while now. This is the 11th week straight. And
it's like the 11th hour, only it's weeks.
Yeah, but it's still not graceful starting one of the episodes.
No.
Like anytime we get started, we're just kind of sit in silence for a second. Like, wait, does he know if I'm ready to start?
Worse than that, this time, and I hope you're cutting the joke out in the edit.
Yeah.
It was a joke, like just a rip on each other, and then
yeah. Yeah, that's I'll cut that out. We've got a good track record of having having your intro in the beginning. And I think it's funny, if I remember right, I think the very first episode you actually kind of did that on accident, I guess, or like it might have just been a gaffe. But like,
I mean, it kind of
works.
Playing around.
Yeah.
But yeah, it works.
Yeah, it works. So, we kept it. It sounds great.
So what has the week brought you, John?
No, it's not a whole. Nothing. Just
nothing.
Nothing really of interest. Just
did it fly by for you?
It did. Yeah. It was almost like it was an extra week.
God, I wish it had flown by. It was the longest week I have ever experienced. I swear.
Yeah. I think I answered the wrong question. Actually, you asked me if it flew by, and I said and then explained how it was how long it was. Yeah. I'm just yeah. Well, that's how long. That's how long this 1 week has been.
It's been insane.
Yeah, it's a long week for sure. I had a look at the topics list. It didn't really change a whole lot since the last time we talked. And we have done no prep for this as usual. That sounds like a criticism. Actually, it's not. It's kind of our model, right? I kind of come in cold. You come in with some idea of what we're going to talk about, and then you're like, "Here's a different topic," and then blam, you give me a topic, and we riff on it for a little while. So
that is exactly our model.
Yeah.
Thank you for summing that up so succinctly, John.
Yeah. And I really like that model because it means that I really have to do very little work ahead of time.
Well, you're the one who has ended up editing every one of these. I wouldn't say it's little work.
Yeah, well, I mean, I do all of my work on the back end. You do all of your work on the front end. And that could very well be taken out of context at some point. But we'll just move on for now.
Well, enjoy your back end work for the time being.
Oh, I will.
And we'll work on that back end work. What we should probably focus on is the here and now work.
Okay.
The meat. The
meat and potatoes.
Oh wow, that's something to take out of context.
Gotta work on the front meat.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's just go ahead and dive into something here.
Okay.
So a different topic. Physicists just solved a 35-year-old mystery hidden inside atomic cores. I know you probably saw this and we're like, what the heck's going on? Probably haven't even looked at it.
I did actually. I looked at it, but on accident. I looked at this. I saw this article or a similar article just in my own perusing of the internet. And then I noticed that you had the topic here, so I did actually read something about it.
So it's, of course, I just kind of pull topics that I think we will find interesting. It doesn't matter what the source of the topic, whether it's science, philosophy, whatever. Mm-hmm. We just tend to gravitate towards those topics.
Yeah.
But this one was that since we have been able to measure the nucleus of an atom and the individual components, the neutrons and the protons, we've noticed that neutrons and protons weigh a certain amount separate, free floating, But when you pack them into a nucleus, all of a sudden that weight can change.
Right.
For the individual protons and neutrons, not for the total combined weight.
Now, when you say weight, do you mean mass, or are we talking about the energy levels? I see, because the way I mean, I could be wrong, but the way I'm remembering it was that it had something to do with the like the energy level of the particles before being in the nucleus and then after being in the nucleus.
It may have to do with energy levels. I may be using the wrong terminology here. It's the energy levels, because it has to do with the speed of the subparticles of the protons and neutrons, the quarks.
So looking at this one paragraph, it says two particles in a nucleus are typically pulled together by a force of around 8 million electron volts, or 8 MeV. A measure of energy in particles. Quarks at a proton or neutron are bound together by 1,000 MeV. That's a huge difference.
Right.
So does it make sense that
in each proton or neutron shouldn't have enough force to pull them away from that proton or neutron just because an atom is bound together.
Okay.
There should be nothing that causes those protons and neutrons to intertwine. But what they're finding is that they are intertwining. They still don't quite know exactly why. They think it has something to do with shared forces and kind of like the gravitational forces in a solar system, how everything's balanced because not just the star, but the gravity of everything kind of pulls a little bit. Only actually much more powerfully, because gravity isn't so much a force as a well. I saw a video recently where they explained it by taking a straight piece of paper and trying to go along a latitudinal line, and as they went along, it actually curved down, and it'll do that every time, even no matter how you try to flatten it against a single latitude line. I don't know the term there.
It's latitudinal.
I broke down.
Latitudinal and longitudinal. Latitude, longitude.
Is that what I said the first time?
You said latitudinal. Yeah.
I added a G there.
Yeah.
Look, I don't know all my spelling words yet. The teacher just handed them out yesterday. I don't have them down.
We'll change your name to 6th grade, and you can you'll get promoted when you can spell words right. Actually, I don't even. What grade would you learn how to spell latitude and longitude? I don't even know.
That's a very good question. I don't even know if they do the vocabulary stuff that we used to do in school. I've got 4 kids. You would think I'd know, but none of my 3 middle schoolers I have ever seen bring home a vocabulary worksheet of any type once they hit middle school,
right.
Much less my high schoolers. So either they're hiding it from me, or they don't do it that way anymore.
Interesting.
And who knows? My current middle schooler uses a Chromebook for all her books at school.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I love Chromebooks.
You would think that would save on the book carrying experience, but then she's got a Chromebook, apparently she still has a backpack full of books or notebooks or something. I don't even know.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
So back to this thing. So what are we saying here? So it sounds like there are, like nobody knew how to explain the difference. Or so can we distill this a little bit? Are we saying that the energy levels that we thought were necessary to keep them together are not what's keeping them together, or is it the other way around, that they should have too much energy and shouldn't be able to keep them together at all?
Neither. It's not about them staying together. It's about when they come together, the thought process was the 8 millivolts, not millivolts, the 8
MeV.
What is it?
Million electron volts.
Yeah. The 8 whatever unit of measurement of volts of force that is required to keep 2 particles, be it protons or neutrons, together in an atom is far less than the 1,000 units of force that keeps the quarks within a proton or a neutron. Well, because that there's that difference in force levels between the 2 units of quarks, they didn't think there would be any reason for the quarks to pass the boundaries between a proton or a neutron, or a proton and a proton, or a neutron and a neutron.
Okay.
So what they're finding, and so therefore, within an atom, the overall speeds of all of the quarks within an atom's nucleus should remain constant as if the protons and neutrons were separate and free floating. The speed that the quarks are moving should always be about the same, because there should be no mixing.
Okay.
What they're seeing, and they haven't been able to explain this in 35 years that they've been able to really define quarks as being the particles which protons and neutrons are made up of. They're seeing that the quarks are actually intertwining between the different protons and neutrons, even though there's no real good reason for them to do that, seeing as that how there is such a large force that binds them and creates the proton and neutron.
Okay.
And what that does is that slows the speed of those quarks down as they make that interaction. And that's where they're seeing a difference that they've seen for 35 years, because this is based on when they first were able to differentiate quarks as the base unit of a proton or a neutron. They noticed immediately that when the free floating masses of quarks, when they came together to form an atom, there was a difference in speed, not constantly, but averagely overall, there would be a difference in speed in the quarks that were suddenly in an atom, but they couldn't explain it because there was no reason for those quarks to cross between a proton and a neutron.
So what is that reason then? And as a follow-up, why does it matter? Like, what? I'm not a science denier. What I mean is, like, why is that? And then what impact does that have on the rest of science? What good is figuring this thing out after 35 years?
They're not exactly sure why it does it yet. The thing about it is they weren't sure that it did it. Until now.
Okay, I misunderstood.
So it's the point of it is just that we've opened another door behind the reality and figure out what makes the universe tick.
I gotcha.
This is, of course, into the quantum realm with being quarks and being able to see how they interact. Mm-hmm. Whereas before, we didn't even know this happened. We saw that there was a difference, but we didn't know why there was a difference there in that speed. But now we know the difference is because there's actual quarks that cross over between the boundaries of a proton and a neutron. Now, that doesn't necessarily help to hold an atom together any more strongly than one that might not be happening in at any given time. But it's something that happens, and we've seen that this difference happens. We just couldn't explain it until now.
Very interesting.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a good find. 35-year-old mystery.
Yeah, and
that's so cool. You know, that's something I really like about science. A friend of mine and I were just talking the other day. We both kind of wish that our jobs were a little more in the prototyping space, because we're both really good at coming up with things where somebody kind of gives you a prompt for an idea, and then then both of us are really good at taking that idea and then running with it. And then just trying stuff, not even just to see if we can make the original thing happen, but to see if we can figure out other things around that, whatever that central idea was. And that's one of the things that's really cool about science, and something that gets overlooked a whole lot. A lot of people know this somewhat anecdotally, but for example, NASA invented Velcro, and my understanding is the reason they came up with Velcro was because they needed a way to hold astronauts to the floor when they were going to the moon. So
sure,
they just came up.
NASA invented Velcro. It wasn't the pre-existing relationship with extraterrestrial beings. It was NASA.
Correct. Yeah, it was definitely not aliens. It was, yeah.
I've noticed I have this continual push to conspiracy theories when we touch upon it.
Yeah, every time.
Not because I believe in it, just it's fun.
Yeah. But yeah, so we have Velcro because of that. And so, Velcro is in my daughter's shoes, and I've got Velcro cable ties, and all of this is stuff that somebody may have come up with it because Velcro has a lot of uses, but we wouldn't have had it as soon as we did if it wasn't for NASA trying to solve the problem of weightless astronauts. And,
absolutely.
And, a lot of things are discovered along the path of discovery. You're not just dropping a rover on Mars. You have to create new technologies. You have to write new software. You have to invent things that haven't been invented before. And sometimes in that process, you have to do something that has never been done before. And it's less about doing it for the first time and more about creating this technology or advancing the civilization in that kind of way. And I think people lose track of that.
I guarantee a good portion of our communication technologies now, especially the basis of wireless communication,
absolutely,
it was not invented for consumer markets. It was invented to improve military or space exploration needs.
Yes, absolutely.
In fact, we used to work in the IDEN network field, which was what cellular companies such as Nextel, Southern Link, and I think there were a couple more, but the walkie-talkie phones.
Yeah.
That's the technology that those used. Well, when Sprint bought Nextel and who owned the IDEN technology, when Sprint bought Nextel, they planned to get rid of that IDEN technology in their network, which I understand. But what they did with it is they didn't just turn everything off and go, okay, we're done with it, on to new things, let's forget about it.
Right.
They handed it over to the military, which was a segment that particular wireless technology was kind of created to cater to in the first place.
Yeah.
Because it was more reliable than the other cellular communication technologies of the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you've gone alien on. Oh, we should probably address this real quick. This is the first.
I'm sorry.
This is the first podcast where we started with a video of ourselves so that we could see each other, and I'm not so sure it's not going to be a little bit of a detraction.
I'm sorry. I take full responsibility for the distraction here. I realized while Mike was talking, I realized that I could adjust things like my hue and my saturation. So I just cranked the saturation all the way up and dropped the hue all the way down. So now I'm just bright green and everything around me is neon purple.
You're Gamora.
Yeah, sorry. I can't set it all back to just default with one click. So I'm just going to drag everything kind of to center, and we'll just forget that anything weird happened. Sorry about that.
No, it's good. It did bring up a point that I had meant to actually address already, but
well, you're welcome then. I'm no longer sorry. You. I take it back. But yeah, you said the communication satellites or the communication technologies. Yeah, for sure. That's unquestionably the case. We owe a great deal of our of current technology to military and government work, for sure, unquestionably.
Absolutely. So, now that we've talked about new technologies and new advances, let's plunge into the depths of human greed, I guess. Let's line our pockets a bit.
Oh, the depths of human greed.
Yeah.
Jesus. Man, you really brought the tone down. We just need to run a quick ad spot, Mike. God.
All right. So if you were immediately back to us, we didn't have a spot yet, or we haven't recorded a spot yet. If you heard an ad, I hope you enjoyed it.
So much for the
if you didn't, let us know.
Greed.
If you did, let us know. I don't know. That's kind of, anyways. As we like to do, we got dirty playing an ad and tried to scam some shekels off of people. So let's just get cleaned up. Let's forego all the talk about it, and let's just hop in the shower, cue the shower talk sound bite that we have yet to produce.
That doesn't exist yet.
Yeah.
Maybe I can find. I did try to find one for last week for episode 10, and I came up dry, so to speak.
That's all right.
That was an accidental pun. You know what? No, that was on purpose.
That was
I'll take
totally
credit.
on purpose.
I'm going to take credit for that pun. That was good. That was a good pun.
Well, let's get clean and shower down with a shower thought. I actually really kind of like this. I don't know how far we're going to go with it, but when we're able to mass produce artificial meat, animals will still be killed and sold as premium organic meat to rich people for huge prices. And this is by the user Darkstar_Randall on Reddit.
I feel like that's probably true.
With this.
Yeah, that's probably true.
But what it makes me think of is I was seeing on, I believe, Rhett and Link, they took there's what is it, the Amazing or the Unbelievable burger or something like that. It's an artificial meat burger.
Okay.
I think it's vegan. It may or may not be lab grown. It may be just vegetable based protein. I don't know for sure, but it wasn't, slaughtered meat, no matter which way you talk about it.
Okay.
So they took that patty because apparently Hardee's / Carl's Jr. is making a burger mass produced and available on the market with this patty. And it's really supposed to taste almost just like real beef patties.
Okay. Is it entirely synthetic or is it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's entirely synthetic, but it's supposed to have the red fluids that come from it. It's supposed to have a consistency very, very close to meat, a taste that's very, very close to meat. Now, Rhett and Link, and I guess I'll have to find the episode they did this and link it in the show notes now. But Rhett and Link took that same beef substitute product and put it in a whole bunch of different fast food places, food like Taco Bell and a bunch of other ones. I don't even remember all the ones they did, but there were some that they were like, this is actually really good. Maybe not call it a substitute, maybe just build a whole new thing around it instead of try and fool you into thinking it's another product.
Okay.
Or because what they were consistently finding is if you tried the substitute meat first, it tasted fine. But then you tried the real meat and it had just enough enhancement to it. It may be the grease, the umami, or whatever the case may be. It tasted just enough different once you ate it that you're like, oh yeah, that's beef, and the other's not.
Oh,
but until you ate the real beef, you would not have done that, which is a problem for vegetarian and vegan foods, I think, in that they try and mimic foods that people who aren't vegetarians or vegans, like I like a good burger, and they try and mimic it with like a portobello mushroom or a fake like black bean patty or something like that.
Yeah, this bean patties really gross me out.
Yeah, exactly. Don't try and mimic a food because you want to try and entice the people who don't eat vegetarian to have this, or if you go into that lifestyle by choice and not by a necessity of a body function, like I have a sister-in-law who can't eat meats. Yeah, staying alive. If she eats meat, she gets sick.
Right.
I understand that. I also somewhat understand somebody just choosing to do it because they choose to do it. I don't necessarily agree that it's the right way to go, but then again, I'm not vegetarian or vegan by choice either. So,
well, I mean,
if I was,
I think there's probably a pretty good. I'm not gonna say probably. I think there's a good argument to be made, for eating less meat or no meat at all purely on moral grounds. There, just thinking about because like I have absolutely no problem at all with the idea of going out into the woods, hunting a deer, killing it, slaughtering it, and feeding my family with the meat from that kill. So right. I have absolutely no problem with. As a result, I also have no problem with cows on a farm being killed and slaughtered and delivered to my table. Where I start having problems is where they're essentially torturing these animals to death. And there's a lot of stories and it's incontrovertible evidence that this stuff goes on with how they treat chickens. That there are, I don't want to get into naming brands and all this stuff, but there are major chicken producers out there that are growing chickens in such tight quarters and breeding them in such a way that their legs are literally not strong enough to carry their body weight, and they just break. Their legs break, and they're just in pain until they die and are fed to us. That
and I
is
agree
a problem.
with the outrage there. That is a problem. That I completely agree with a outrage towards inhumane treatment of animals, even if they're going to just be food for us.
Right.
That's no reason to treat them like an outright product like that.
Sure.
I mean, they're still a living, breathing thing.
Yeah.
They still feel pain. There's no reason to put them through that.
Yeah. And so I think in that way, there's a good argument to be made for avoiding meat. I don't do that. I avoid the companies that I know that treat their animals that way. So I eat a lot of beef that is from local farms somewhere near here that I can. There's a place near here where you can literally name a cow and go visit it and buy it, and they'll raise it. They'll raise it. They'll feed it. They wait until it's at age and weight, and it hangs out with its friends and its siblings, and it lives a great life out on the range, just free grazing and all that. And then it just goes and has a painless death and then is served.
I would have to ask about the time period that it would take to raise to that point.
Yeah, it's a long time.
Because I would name it for the month that it provided my family sustenance.
Oh, yeah. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
So that kind of thing I have no problem with. To me, that cow is raised in captivity, sure, but it lives a good life, and as good a life as a cow can live, and then it's food.
Exactly. I don't agree with inhumane practices on like chicken farms, cattle ranches, or farms, or
for sure,
whatever the case may be. If they're practicing inhumane practices just to get production levels up to a certain standard, I think they should be shut down, and other companies should come in and be able to take their place that will do it a more humane way.
Completely agree.
But I don't necessarily think that, because there's companies out there that are just in it for the money and don't care about the animals that are in their care.
Yeah.
I don't think that that's a reason that I should go and change my dietary intake that sustains me a certain way because another company can't be responsible. I'll just stop buying from that company.
Right.
But I mean, the point isn't to argue whether vegan or vegetarian or any particular diet style is right. Even with the moral issues aside, there's still, dietary, like legitimate people. Some people just can't process certain proteins the right way, or like again, my sister-in-law just can't really eat meat. She can eat some fish and some chicken.
Yeah.
Beef tears her up, but chicken she can eat a little bit of, but not too much. I myself, I can't eat much fish. So I can go to a fast food fish place like Captain D's or Long John Silver's and get a couple of terrible for me, just deep fried. It's almost not fish anymore.
Yeah.
And I can eat that. So I completely understand people having dietary restrictions that force them not to eat that. And you know what? If you believe that you honestly shouldn't be eating that, even if your body can process it, I can't stand in your way and say, well, here's a chicken nugget. You have to eat it. Shove it in your mouth.
Yeah, for sure. And
that's
two,
not right.
And two, even if you disagreed with their stance that, they shouldn't eat meat for any reason, they are still contributing to the reduction of meat consumption, which
absolutely
is really good for the animal kingdom. So even if you disagree with their reason, unless you're just an asshole, you have to at least acknowledge that there's a net gain, there's a net good that's happening from what they're doing.
As long as they don't try and force me to eat something that I don't feel I should eat, then I won't try and force them to eat something that they don't feel they should eat.
Right.
But it's interesting because we now have these imitation meat products actually being mass produced at the very beginning of the process of mass production of these.
Right.
And there's two fast food chains. I already mentioned Carl's Jr. / Hardee's. There's also, I think, Jack in the Box.
Okay.
I think is the other one, that are making products with this meat. So it's not a matter of if it'll happen, it's a matter of when it will happen and if it will actually catch on and actually supplant a major portion of the natural meat products out there.
Right.
I don't know if it would actually supplant that, but it's an interesting thought to think that this is actually already happening. It's not a shower thought anymore. It's
yeah.
This artificial meat is being mass produced, and it will soon be available readily to just about anybody. So will we see an uptick in natural beef prices? Will we see more humane treatment of the animals now that there's going to be an option? Sure, right now that artificial patty that tastes like real meat is more expensive than real meat.
Mm-hmm.
But as production ramps up on it and it's able to be produced in greater volume for a cheaper price, that price is going to fall because it's technology. That's how technology works.
Yeah, I'm curious though about the this is probably something I could look up, but I'm curious about the health impacts. Something that has come increasingly made its way into my consciousness, I guess you could say, over the last several years is how much stuff we put in our bodies that are not naturally occurring chemicals.
Mm-hmm.
And so hearing about a fully synthetic meat, that concerns me, and I don't know that I would even want that in my body.
Well, it's not like it's a chemical that they've just combined a bunch of chemicals that they've combined and poof, there's meat. It's more that like it's a grown. If it's the artificial meat, because I know there's a couple of different ones. There's one that's like plant products and proteins and whatnot that they combine, and as much as it's not necessarily man-made chemicals, at least fully. It's nature-derived chemicals that are manipulated in such a way to really imitate a beef texture and the it's not blood, the red juice that comes out of red meat. I can't think of the word for it right now.
That's not blood?
But no, it's not blood. It's actually a fluid that helps the muscle contract, but it is not blood.
Huh.
You never knew that?
No. I mean, I knew it wasn't pure blood because it's not thick enough. It's it's very watery.
It's not plasma either.
Interesting. I mean, I know I've definitely had a bleeding cut of beef before, where you can clearly see blood, like actual blood on the beef. So I just assumed it was like diluted or something.
Yeah, no. If you think about it, and I just pulled up an article, and I've never thought about it this way, but I just saw it. If you think about it, if it were blood, chicken has red blood too. So if it were blood, then the dark meat from chicken and even the white meat from chicken would have some of that coming out of it too. What it is myoglobin. Which is
okay.
Hemoglobin is the iron in the blood. But myoglobin is a protein that is embedded in that type of meat, but it's not blood.
Very interesting.
But they've found some way to replicate that myoglobin in this artificial meat patty.
Huh.
Or not patty, just the meat itself,
the meat, yeah.
Whether it's in patty form or whatever.
Right.
So when you bite into this, it even has a little bit of that red juice coming out of it to replicate it as fully as possible.
Huh.
Yeah. It's really impressive. For somebody who is definitely not a vegetarian, I really want to try one of these.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm one of those where you give me artificial sweetener of just about any kind, and so far I've not found one that I couldn't peg as an artificial sweetener, even if it's an alcohol sugar, and which is very close to an actual glycemic sugar.
Yeah, you know, I don't know if I've ever done a side-by-side comparison, but I feel like I could nail it too. There's a texture is the wrong word, but there's definitely an experience that you have with real sugar that you don't have with the artificials.
Well, at least you and I have a difference of experience there, but that's not to say that everyone does.
Right.
I mean,
some people honestly can't tell the difference between Coke Zero and Coca-Cola, which every time I hear someone honestly tell me that, I'm just baffled. Like, I don't even have to taste them side by side to be able to tell the difference.
I almost cringe, but that's because I honestly taste the difference. And I've talked to people. In fact, I'm pretty sure my own mother. The topic really hasn't come up in years because she's given up trying to force artificial sweeteners on me. But I've talked to people who honestly, when I tell them, no, that's a diet drink, I'm not going to drink that. They're like, how can you tell the difference? I'm like, because it's an artificial sweetener. It tastes different.
Yeah.
They're like, no, it doesn't.
Okay.
Yeah, to me, it does. I mean, it might not to you, but to me, it does.
Yeah. So no, I actually prefer there's like a texture difference between Coca-Cola and Diet Coke. And I prefer the experience of Diet Coke to regular Coca-Cola. I find Coca-Cola to be too sweet. Like, I don't know how to, it almost feels thick. Like I don't enjoy the way it feels. Like, it almost feels thick, like it's syrupy. And I don't get that experience with Diet Coke.
Right. I've not been drinking regular sodas for quite a few months now.
Yeah.
I've been trying to stay on a low carbohydrate diet, almost a keto diet, but with some issues with the town I live in, it's really kind of hard to find low carbohydrate foods quickly right now.
Right.
A lot of places have closed for a disaster reason, but we'll not get into that.
Yeah. Are you, I don't even know if I'm allowed to ask this question. I'll cut it out if I have to. I mean, did you, because the whole town was under an NDA. Did you guys get lifted or?
No.
Okay.
So yeah, it's really hard for me to necessarily do a full keto diet when I find it hard to cook enough food and enjoy it. And I'm weird. I know I should be just dieting at any cost, but I don't want to take the cost. But yet on some things like diet drinks or things that are lower sugar, I'd rather just cut those out entirely than go to a diet drink or a lower sugar product. I'd rather just go and not have it. Like,
yeah, I totally understand.
A sweet tea, I've gone to just tea, and my whole family is all sweet tea, and my wife looks at me like I'm insane because, I mean, we come from the South, so we like our sweet tea.
Yeah.
But I haven't had sweet tea I had a sip of sweet tea a couple of weeks ago because somebody accidentally gave me sweet tea instead of unsweetened tea.
I don't think that counts.
It tastes like syrup now.
Yeah, it totally does. I think that may be what happened with me because my wife is a big Diet Coke fan, so we and I was never really a big soda drinker at home. If I got fast food or something, or if I ordered a pizza, I almost always got a soda with it. But But she's a big Diet Coke drinker, so we had Diet Coke in the house, which meant that was the soda that was available. So whenever I wanted one, that's what I got. So now anytime I drink a soda that isn't diet, it tastes like I'm just like pouring diabetes into my body.
The funny thing about that, though, there's been correlation. Now, granted, this isn't causation, and I'm aware of the difference there, but there's been a strong correlation between the type of artificial sweeteners that's in like Diet Coke, aka Coke Zero.
Mm-hmm.
I am led to believe both of those are exactly the same product, rebranded just for a male audience.
They taste differently.
Yeah. No, what?
They taste different.
They do taste different?
Yeah.
Maybe you just think they do.
I'd be willing to take that test. Not only do I believe I'd be able to tell that they're different, I believe I'd be able to tell which one's which.
That'd be an interesting blind test because I've seen sources specifically state that Coca-Cola literally just rebranded Diet Coke to Coke Zero because Diet Coke was seen as a female drink.
Right.
So they came out with Coke Zero to pull in a little bit more of the male demographic.
Sure. Yeah, I'd be willing to do that on record, on camera. I feel that good about it. I feel like I'd be able to identify them, not just that they're different, but I'd tell which one's which.
See, I've not had either one of those. I've never had a Coke Zero, and I haven't had a Diet Coke in probably a decade.
Okay.
So I couldn't say. I honestly have no idea.
Cool.
But there has been studies showing a positive correlation between a body's issue with insulin processing and glucose processing and the consumption of artificial sweeteners that are glycemic affecting artificial sweeteners. So like there's some alcohol based artificial sweeteners that are alcohol sugars. They're not taken in by the body, but the body also doesn't really see them as sugar, so it doesn't even try and take them in. But things like aspartame or I may not be saying that right, but
aspartame?
Without saying name brands of artificial sweeteners, but the ones that are actually like chemicals that were found either accidentally or on purpose as a sweetener, they're seen by the body as sugar. And then when it goes to process it, it can't process it. So your body actually has, at least initially, the standard spike of either insulin or glucose or something like that. When it sees that more sugar is coming in, your body goes, right. Oh, good, it's more sugar. And then it gets it and goes, oh, wait, this isn't sugar. And then it doesn't process it while they're right. thinking. And again, the studies, and it is multiple studies, not one study, but the studies I've read about for this are just saying it's correlation. So I am not saying that this is absolutely how it goes, but they're thinking that it goes that the body gets used to seeing sugar or artificial sugar and the cue that sugar is incoming into your body as a non-signal anymore. So when you get real sugar, your body takes it in and goes, oh yeah, I'm just going to put it over here because it's not real sugar. And then kind of sees later on, oh, okay, it is real sugar. What do I do with it again? And
interesting. So your body gets confused on sugar processing in general and mucks up that whole process.
Exactly. So they're seeing a definitive correlation between the presence of diabetes in those who have drank diet and artificially sweetened products over a long period. And this is type 2 diabetes. Of course, type 1 diabetes wouldn't be based on food intake or weight gain or any of the classic causes.
Okay.
For type 1, you're just kind of born with it or you develop it through genetics.
Yeah.
Entirely. Type 2 can be somewhat through genetics, or you could just damage your body so much that whichever organ produces insulin just stops producing insulin the right way, or something like that. So they're thinking that some type 2 diabetes can be attributed possibly to people taking in diet drinks and diet this or that has artificial sugars in it, and the body stopping processing regular sugars the right way because they took in so much artificial sugar and basically trained their body to stop processing sugar the right way.
That's really interesting. And that kind of takes me back to what I was saying about the synthetic meat. People didn't realize initially that artificial sweeteners like aspartame, which is I think what you were trying to say earlier, are bad for you. And I just imagine we get this synthetic meat that it turns out that it gives everyone colon cancer or something.
That's a very, very salient thought to this discussion, because I don't know that we do know. I mean, sure, we've produced this, and it may be produced by combining a whole bunch of regular vegetables or something together, or it could be grown from meat cultures. Who knows?
Mm-hmm.
We've produced this artificial meat, and the FDA has apparently released it for human consumption at this point, which is all fine and good, but they also released artificial sweeteners for human consumption at one point, and there's not going to be enough tests or time to have done enough tests to really see a long-term effect of something like this.
Right.
Even if it's from products that are known to be edible products like plant-based sources, you alter them, combine them in enough of a way, then it's going to change how your body reacts to them. It's kind of like H2O and H4O. One, we can't live without, and one, we will die.
Yeah. That's literally kill you.
Yeah. Now, granted, that's a molecular change between the number of atoms within that compound.
Right.
And I doubt that they're making that much of a change to whatever source they're making this beef patty out of.
I would doubt that.
But still, the point still stands. There's going to be a certain amount of difference from the source pieces that they create this out of, if it's plant-based, or if it's a actual meat that's just lab-grown meat. There's going to be an unknown origin or unknown change that may happen in the growth product.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know. We just don't know.
Well, great.
But I'm still going to try one, and I'm not going to be afraid of that.
Yeah, I mean, if one person can eat one and not die immediately, I'll try it.
Yeah, I'll try one, but I may not commit to, changing my entire beef part of my diet over to this fake meat.
Yeah.
Just because, I ate it once and it was acceptable or even good.
Right.
So, well, as for that topic, I'm hungry for a new topic.
Yeah, so now I actually really badly want a hamburger. And it's funny because the wife made hamburgers for dinner tonight. So I have already had a hamburger and I'm craving another one.
Hamburgers are good. What can I say?
I know, right?
I like hamburgers.
Yeah.
So for a different topic, I'm gonna preface this one, and I believe you are well aware of this song, and I'm pretty sure because I started singing it the other day in your house, and you didn't bat an eye. The BabyShark song.
Oh yeah, it's very familiar. I have a 20-month-old child, and it's all there's on YouTube. There's this video that's like an hour and 40 minutes long, and it's just different versions of that song. And I have seen that video probably 15 times.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I'm glad none of my kids are that small anymore.
Yeah.
Because that's what they do. You got to play it over and over again. But this has nothing to do with the song other than the name. So you're good there. But because I came across this, I read a lot of security blogs and Twitters and whatnot.
And Twitters?
And Twitters, yeah. That's what I'm going to call it.
Is that what it's called? Is that what people call? That's weird. I don't think I've ever heard anyone say that out loud.
I don't know. I'm going to call it Twitters.
Okay.
So there's a new BabyShark malware that's targeting U.S. national security think tanks.
Yeah, so I actually heard about this. This is would you like to educate people on what phishing is and then the variant spear phishing before we get into it?
Okay, so what phishing is and I'm sure almost anybody listening to this has email, so you've almost certainly gotten something that was a phishing email, and that's basically just an email that comes to you that is claiming to be a company, whether it's a company you do business with or just another company that is trying to get you to click on a link so that you enter some login information. Say it looks like it comes from PayPal, and you click on a link and it may look exactly like the PayPal login, and you enter in your login information and then you click login, and maybe it doesn't look like it did anything. Maybe the page just reloads and it may even go to the actual PayPal login page, and then you enter your information again, click login, and you're actually into your account. But the first time you did it, they captured your username and password.
Yep.
And that's phishing because they are phishing for your account information or some sort of information about you.
So it's phishing because
they can turn around and use it.
A lot of times what happens is, like in that scenario, you may get an email that looks like it's from PayPal that says, hey, there's a problem with your account. Please log in and click this and then click that. And there'll be a link there, and you go to that link. And like Mike said, it has a username and password. You put in those credentials, and then next thing you know, you're either actually logged into PayPal or you're given another login screen that says like there was a problem. But that time it's the real login screen. So you put in your username and password again, and you don't think anything weird happened. But in actuality, they stole your stuff. So it's phishing because they baited you with this thing that there was something wrong with your account, or someone just sent you a bunch of money or something like that. They draw you in that way.
So spear phishing is when they already know something about you or the class of person you are, some like the company you work for, and they're going after that company. So
like say you're a nuclear scientist.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So they will a spear phishing campaign will be far more targeted. It will have a little bit more research involved in it, and can be significantly
more advanced. It's a much more sophisticated attack.
It is far more likely to actually look like it's fully from, say, one of your coworkers or from a vendor that they know that the company does business with, or something along those lines. So the standard advice has always been to, not click on links for email that you didn't expect or that you don't know the sender of. Unfortunately, for spear phishing, that doesn't work. You shouldn't be clicking links on any email unless you verify that the link goes to exactly where you expect it to go. Or better yet, don't even click on the link if it's a site you normally work with. Read the email, then go into the site and log into the site through a known link to that site that you already have.
Yeah. And in other words, you get an email from PayPal that says there's something wrong with your account. Click here. Don't click there. Go out of your email into a new tab or a new browser. Go to paypal.com and log in and see if there's actually a problem.
Absolutely.
Okay, so that's phishing and spear phishing. So
yeah.
So what happened with this thing? There's an Excel macro, right? This was the Visual Basic script that happened in an Excel macro.
Excel or Word, anything that uses VB scripting. Visual Basic scripting for anybody who doesn't know the terminology.
Sure.
Not well, I guess if you don't know the terminology, that might not say much in the first place, but still, it's Visual Basic scripting, and basically that means it'd probably be in like an Excel or a doc or maybe even a PDF file. But anything that can do Visual Basic scripting, this could be sent in. Fortunately, most email providers already filter out things like standalone executables or script files that aren't in some sort of like zip file or some other enclosure that prevents them from being easily scanned.
Right.
But what this did was that instead of having a link to a form that you log into, it had this script attached to a document. So the phishing was so that you would open the document and then it would automatically go and fetch what's called a payload. I believe. I may be confusing this with another one. Correct me if I'm wrong, John.
Well, so the way I understood how this worked was once you open the Excel sheet, this Visual Basic script would run, and the user would have no idea that this happened. It just happens in the background. So they open the Excel sheet, the script runs, gathers some information about your computer, connects to a website on the internet, and then sends that information over there. What scared me about this the most was that the article that I read said that this thing was not just doing one-way communications. It was a two-way communication. It was a two-way street. So
it was more essentially than phishing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was phishing. They spear phish you to get the Excel sheet on your machine, and they're targeting you. Right. They're targeting the person that this is going to, because they want to see. And then
it's more like a Trojan in that it then opens up this payload, which goes and sends your information off proactively without you putting in any credentials. Mm-hmm. Also, it opens up a backdoor for them to be able to get into
to send information back. Yeah, right. So they were able to interact with this, and this is where I get a little fuzzy. I'm not entirely sure what all they were able to do, but it sounded like when it first runs, it sends information about your machine, identifiable information about your machine to the person, to whatever this other website was. And then a human on that side could then make some decisions based on the information they got, and they could send something back to you that would make your computer behave a certain way, send a file across, look for a specific file or types of files, get network searches done. You know, what kind of shared drives do you have access to? What antivirus are you running? That kind of, it's really terrifying stuff. And when you think about, you know, this seems to have been tied back to North Korean nuclear missile research, or just their nuclear program?
It was a university in the U.S. which was to hold a conference about North Korea denuclearization issues at the time, and a research institute based in the U.S. which serves as a think tank for national security issues, and where the previously referenced nuclear expert currently works. Is the exact verbiage from the article.
That's scary, man.
Yeah.
That's scary. I don't even know. I don't know what else to say about it other than it's scary. I mean, it's
it's kind of funny that they chose to name it the BabyShark malware.
Yeah, well, that wasn't the North Korean folks. That was the
no. That was the
researcher.
The not even the researcher. It was found by a security person, and then a expert firm came in to really identify it, and that expert firm is who named it.
Oh, okay.
I believe.
So some researcher did it. It says Unit 42.
It caught my attention enough for us to talk about it just because of the name, but it's also a really scary but
sophisticated.
That's the word I'm looking for. It's a very sophisticated attack vector, and it bypassed a lot of security to be able to target who and where it was targeting.
Yeah, and it's pretty new too. And this says it first showed up. The oldest sample that exists at the time of the writing of this article was just November of last year. Which, there have been instances of some type of malware existing in, major Fortune 100 company networks that it has existed there for decades, and people are just now finding it. And so finding something that just popped up November of last year, that's not a long time.
No,
that's a really young malware.
it was bypassing highly secure areas in the first place because it had to do with national security.
Mm-hmm.
Anything, even think tanks at universities, if they're invited to work anywhere near national security, they have to step up their security game, and they have certain standards that they're required to comply with, right?
Yeah.
So it's going to be pretty tough to get through that in the first place, but part of the reason why it worked is the human element. I mean,
I don't understand why. I mean, if you're dealing with national secrets, why would you allow attachments to come in from outside your network at all?
Well, one of the decoy files was named U.S. Nuclear Deterrence.pdf.
But that's irrelevant. Yeah. It's not coming from inside your network. I just
irrelevant.
I can't imagine. Right. I can't imagine letting that happen. I've had this conversation at companies that I work for that don't hold government secrets. Why are we doing this?
Even if you scan all the attachments, the biggest problem is
I'm saying just cut them. Right? Don't let any attachment in at all.
Right, exactly. Because even if you scan every attachment, a 0 day is called a 0 day because the code that's responsible for the malicious execution doesn't exist in an antivirus database.
Yeah.
It is unknown, and until it starts acting, you can't scan it and go, oh, this is going to be, well, I mean, you could scan it and go, oh, this is going to act this way, and that's kind of suspicious behavior.
Yeah.
But that would take up a lot more compute power than most scanners are really made to deal with.
And not just that, but the sheer number of ways that you can exploit somebody's machine or somebody's network is it makes doing that virtually impossible.
Exactly.
There are certain things you could do, like if you know, see, but what it takes is a 0 day for it to educate people who make software to stop this kind of stuff from happening. This particular, talking about BabyShark, now they know that they could scrub the metadata of incoming files for any kind of outbound API call. If that's happening, then you just kill it.
It's already hit.
Yeah, exactly. But that's what I'm saying. That's exactly what I'm saying. You didn't know to do that until it happened, and you had data stolen. And now that you know what happened, you can scan for that specific attack vector.
And future incidents can be prevented now.
Right.
But it's already hit a U.S. national security think tank.
Yeah.
And that's, I can't say that it's unacceptable. It's scary is what it is.
Yeah.
It's
for sure.
We want to say it's unacceptable, but as long as we have computers networked together,
yep,
and actually able to pass data, there is going to be the ability for somebody to take advantage of that in a way that somebody else has not thought of.
Yep.
Well, John, have you set a timer?
I mean, I'm watching the audio capture. We just crossed.
I'm bringing it over from Remedy Arcade, man.
Hour and yeah. I'm pretty bad about setting timers, I'll be honest. But at least in this case, it's just one episode, so I can look up and I can see it. I can see that I've been recording for a little over an hour.
Well, it's pretty late at night for us.
Oh yeah,
I know this isn't going to hit at midnight anywhere, but I think even though we have a couple of topics we could probably squeeze in, I'm ready to go ahead and call it a night. How about you, John?
I agree with you, although I will say that I'm sad we didn't talk about the problem you'll never solve. Maybe we can do that next time.
Oh, I really wanted to. Did you see the video on that?
I did. And actually the guest we had last week also saw the video, and he wants to come back and talk about it.
Well, then maybe we need to have Matt on a lot sooner than any of us planned, which is not necessarily a bad thing.
Sure.
So
we'll think about it. We'll figure it out.
Good night, John.
Good night, Mike. Thanks everybody for listening. We'll catch you next time.